Hi beautiful souls, and welcome to another esoteric initiation for the astrological archetypes. So I do have my laptop right here because I'll be talking about this sign of Taurus. Taurus is opposite to Scorpio, and I've already done Scorpio, so I think I want to do sister signs like one after the other, because I just feel like it's going to have a connection, it's going to be more comprehensive. And yeah, I have my notes with me on my computer since Taurus, I'll be very honest, Taurus is a very difficult sign for me to talk about because despite me understanding it, I feel like it's a shadow part of my astrology chart. I don't think I have anything in Taurus, and Taurus I think is in my fifth house, and it's always been difficult energy to understand simply because I have a lot of like Scorpio concentration in the chart. So I want you to know, if you're an astrologer, it's very likely that the placements that you don't have, or if they are contradicted by like a stellium in the opposite sign and you don't have opposing planets, you may have difficulty understanding the archetype where you have a lot of planets in the opposite sign, but not in that particular sign. So you may not be able to understand very well that particular sign. It may seem strange to you, and just want you to know that usually when I look at the chart, wherever I see that, okay, there is a stellium in Aries, for example, but the person has nothing in Libra, and it's just within the house, but nothing activates that Libra point, an asteroid that's more popular, let's say, an asteroid that is more important, a planet or a point like the midheaven, the descendant, ascendant. This is when I think, oh, okay, this is the shadow side. These are things that this person needs to integrate archetypally. So for me, that is Taurus, and that's why I have my notes, because Taurus is, I have a lot to say about it, but at the same time, I feel like I don't have the smooth understanding that I have for other signs. That's why I want to keep it. I want to keep my notes. Okay, so the esoteric initiation for the sign of Taurus. Now, let's define Taurus. This is very important to do before you get into studying a sign. Taurus is a earth sign, an earth sign, a fixed earth sign. It's the second sign in the astrological wheel, counterclockwise, when we begin from Aries. It rules the second house. It's ruled by Venus. It is also where the moon is exalted in the second house, or in the sign of Taurus. The moon is really happy there. And it's also where Uranus is debilitated or in detriment, because Uranus is exalted in Scorpio, so it's the opposite of that in Taurus. Okay. It's important to know that it's a fixed earth sign, because the fixed signs are sustainers of their element, and earth is about solidity, it is about concentration, it is about structure, stability, definition, and density. So when you have fixed earth sign, Taurus in this case, you have fixed or sustained stability, you have sustained materialization, you have sustained manifestation of matter. Okay, and the sustaining part is important because Taurus sustains life on the material plane, right? And I like to think of Taurus as the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Eden, where abundance, life, beauty, flowers and fruits, etc., the ripeness of the fruits, the food, everything was always available and there. Like everything beautiful, everything alive, and everything everything which was at its ripest point was eternal. I also like to think of Taurus as the tree of life, the tree of eternal life, the tree of eternal youth, if you will, the fountain of youth. Because when I imagine Taurus, I imagine a garden or a flower. I've said this in the previous video, I think. Imagine those gifts with flowers that bloom, but the gift never like shows you the flower withering or decaying or dying. It kind of like you see the flower open, and then the image transitions right back into when the flower was just a little bit closed, but it opens again and again and again, and it's kind of like you don't even have the time to see how that flower dies. It's always alive. It always comes back to life. So that's it. That's how I imagine Taurus. Eternal life, especially on the material plane. The sustenance of nature. The food in the plants, okay? The substances that feed the soil, that feed the trees and the flowers. This is also what I imagine Taurus to represent. I imagine it as eternal youth, eternal beauty, eternal life, eternal state of ripeness. The ripeness never fades away. The eternal state of the fruit being its sweetest, its juiciest. That's Taurus, and that's why it's ruled by Venus. Venus defines other qualities of Taurus, such as Taurus being a sign of love, a sign connected to the heart center. Taurus also rules the throat and the throat chakra, the larynx, the gland here, hold on, the thyroid gland. It rules the neck, so it moves the head, and you move your head in the direction of your desire. Usually you want to look at something, or you heard something and you turn that way, or you smell something and you turn that way. You turn in the direction of which the five senses, which also Taurus rules, move you. Like the five senses move you in certain directions, they pull you in certain directions, and then Taurus ruling the head, the neck, is what turns your head around, so you actually take in the object of your desire. You're like, you can, okay, say that, okay, this is where it is. I can now detect the object of my desires. So Taurus is really interesting because it's really the Empress in Tarot, if you think about it. It's really the feminine energy that doesn't necessarily do the action of pursuing. You do that with your mind, with your head, you plan, you strategize how to achieve something. But Taurus is the heart and the five senses that instinctually just pull you, or like they indicate the direction of the things that you like. So that's why Taurus is very, very sensual. And when we say Taurus is sensual, we don't just mean like, oh yeah, they like, you know, nice clothing, nice fabrics, good looking people and places and things. It's not just that. Taurus is the five senses that operate almost from the place of your soul and what your soul likes. You know how certain people find vintage things to be very aesthetically pleasing, and other people like minimalism, other people like maximalism. Well, both styles might be like, the five senses that are attracted to these styles are ruled by Taurus, but these people are attracted to different things, right? Well, that's why Taurus is actually when you tap into your soul, and your soul is attracted to things that resonate with itself on the material plane through the five senses, as the five senses recognize what your soul desires. So our desires can actually sometimes, not always, but let's say a higher, more developed Taurus, their desires will indicate what is connected to their soul. Because Taurus has this amazing ability to see spirit and soul in the material plane. Like a lot of Tauruses know that animals have a soul. A lot of Tauruses feel like flowers, rocks, crystals have a soul. A lot of Tauruses, especially Taurus moons or second house stelliums as children, may treat their objects as their best friends, their toys as their best friends, or they may believe that these objects have like a soul, a personality behind them or something. Tauruses appreciate the material plane, especially as they are more evolved, from a very, very spiritual place. They appreciate the material human experience from a very, very spiritual place because they're connected to the Garden of Eden. They can live here on earth as if it is heaven on earth. That's why it's opposite to Scorpio, because Scorpio is maybe embodied by Dante's Inferno, right? So Scorpio feels like the earth is hell. It's the purgatory. And Taurus feels like the earth is the gift. It's the heaven that you are striving for. And I don't think either of these signs is correct, but they both see a spiritual purpose in the material plane, and that's why they're so attached to it and obsessed with it, but they see a different purpose. Scorpio is like, the material plane is teaching me how to, grow out of it. It's imprisoning me so I can alchemize it, transform, and essentially become a phoenix, become this mythological creature. Taurus is like, the material plane is honoring my and mirroring my sense of self-worth and my sense of being one with God and the abundance flowing all around in the universe. So when you reconcile these two, like Taurus and Scorpio, these two archetypes, you can become an amazing, very powerful manifester. But that's what Taurus represents and why it represents it. Taurus individuals can be obsessed with their relationships because owning material objects is one thing, but owning another individual is a completely different story. And Taurus is so sensitive to loyalty. Like, we are here on this earth in these physical bodies. So in this lifetime, I choose you and you choose me. And I don't care who you've loved in previous lifetimes or who you will love in future lifetimes. Here, today, and now, you are created for me because I really like you. I like how you look. I like how you dress. And I resonate with the way you live your life, with the way you've materialized on this planet. And if I resonate with your material setting, it means my soul recognizes your soul. I know it can sound a bit weird, but yeah, for Taurus, the beauty in people, the physical looks, their possessions, their level of being rich or not, whatever, can be indications of a highly evolved soul, or it can be an indication of, okay, my soul resonates with yours. And if you think about it, because Taurus is ruled by Venus or Aphrodite was very jealous, very envious of other goddesses and even humans who were beautiful and loved and idealized. So Aphrodite was jealous of these beings, of these people, of these individuals, and she She wanted all the attention for herself. So Taurus can be like this sometimes, and they can be like this with their partner. Taurus will need their partner to affirm that we are Adam and Eve, we are the children of God in the Garden of Eden. Taurus does need this to experience a truthfully blissful love. And of course, this is when Taurus is a bit less evolved. Now, Tauruses will have maybe their first initiation into higher consciousness by being rejected or being denied their desires. Now, with Scorpio, it's the rejection from a relationship, because Scorpio is more concerned with the union of two souls. For Taurus, it might be not necessarily the rejection of a relationship that bugs them, like, why didn't you love me as deep as I loved you? It may be more so, why did this beautiful human, or why did this fancy shiny thing, why was I denied access to it? Why was I denied possession of this? Am I not a child of God? And this is when Taurus evolves, and this is when Taurus learns that attachment to outcome, attachment to the material plane can be harmful. It can be limiting, and it can make them feel not good. Basically, when you question your self-worth, who feels good, right? Well, this is when Taurus really awakens to that, when something that they really appreciated with their five senses, along with their soul and with their heart, of course, but especially the five senses, when that was denied to them, they start to question, am I not worthy of beauty? I don't know how to explain this without sounding superficial, and a lot of Tauruses, let me tell you, they don't think like, oh, I just want this beautiful person or whatever. No, they fall in love with the personality and everything and so on and so forth, but they just have a spiritual attachment to harmony on the material plane and what it looks like, okay? And it's a spiritual thing, and for them, beauty, aesthetics, all of that symbolizes a harmonious soul, or it symbolizes a soul that deserved all these goods. Now, let me tell you, when a Taurus, or somebody with a lot of Taurus placements, Taurus stelliums, when they see somebody beautiful, they think this must be someone who's done something in their past lives to deserve to be born with these privileges. When Scorpio sees somebody beautiful, they're like, is this the devil in disguise? That's the difference. Taurus sees harmony, beauty, and the perfection manifested on the material plane as the byproduct of the good deeds of the soul. And Scorpio questions if that is trickstery or somebody trying to manipulate them. That is the difference between Taurus and Scorpio. They both appreciate power, beauty, loyalty, inner and outside beauty. They both care about these things, but it's just that Taurus associates beauty with one thing and Scorpio with another. So that's why when Tauruses feel like, I'm worthy of love, I'm worthy of abundance, their sense of self-worth will make them appear 10 times better than perhaps a Scorpio, who is like, yeah, I'm worthy of this and I'm worthy of that, but it may not affect them physically as much. It will affect them really internally. And it's just a really interesting reversal of energies that these signs have. Like, they have a relationship to the same thing, but it's from the opposite point perspective, okay? So that's why Tauruses, when they're denied access to somebody they personally, not the world, not society, but they personally deemed as the most beautiful creature in the world, on the planet, or the most beautiful item on the planet, in the world, the most beautiful painting out there, when they're denied access to this, they start to question Did God abandon me? Am I still like worthy? What is going on? And this is when Taurus, because it rules the body, it rules the second house, it rules the house of self-worth and possessions, etc. And the body, once again, repeating myself, sorry about that. This is when Taurus starts to question their own beauty. Yeah, and when a Taurus questions their own beauty, they're not questioning their beauty, they're not questioning their looks. A Taurus always knows that they look good. They have, like, I don't know, a nice sense to them. I don't know how to explain it. It's like their aura is like a balsamic experience for other people. It's a luxurious, high quality experience for other people. But when the Taurian individual starts to question their appearance, their beauty, their financial situation, even, they're not questioning this. They're questioning if God abandoned them, if they were thrown away from the Garden of Eden. And that is the first initiation, because the Garden of Eden, the initial state of Taurus, the sustained earth, right, the sustained beauty, the sustained Venusian, idealistic, harmonious lifestyle, which archetypally, metaphorically, in the Christian Judeo-Christian society is represented by the Garden of Eden. When this lifestyle suffers, it's damaged, or when the Taurus feels like their life glowed down, this is when they receive the first initiation, and they're basically kicked out from this eternal abundance in order to learn, in order for their third eye to open. Yes, because Taurus is the first out of the three earth signs. Taurus is the maiden, Virgo is the mother, Capricorn is the crown. Taurus is the maiden that ate from the fruit. Taurus is Eve. Taurus ate from the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. That's why they were kicked out, because Taurus became greedy. They were like, I want everything, right? Greediness is the path through which Taurus falls into a pit of despair and lack, and they realize that the material attachment hurts them. So then they become the Buddha eventually, because they fall from the Garden of Eden. They start to learn about good and evil. They lose their innocence. They start to work for the material achievements that they deeply desire. And when they start to put in the work, they realize that, okay, so how things look physically does not determine the quality of the soul behind the person, or the quality of the intentions behind the creation. For example, a lot of big companies, factories, etc., they may look like, oh look, we're creating these amazing products, or we're making a lot of money, but the intention behind it may not be so good, right? They might be cheating people, they might be scamming people, etc. So Taurus starts to learn about all of these things, and Taurus becomes the Buddha, or starts to walk the path of the Buddha. The next initiation is that the Taurus needs to release the desire for material achievement and material results, and just the attachment to the material plane. And after they do that, their third eye opens. That's why in esoteric astrology, Taurus is related to the first opening of the third eye, or seeing beyond the Maya, beyond the illusion. And Maya is the illusion of the material plane, and that the material plane is O and BO, that the material plane is everything that defines you, which is not true. And Taurus wakes up to this. This is when Taurus starts to believe in magic, manifestation, intentional creation, and gratitude. Gratitude is a big initiatory thing for a Taurus. Like, the Taurian individual is born entitled to abundance, beauty, harmony, eternal love, eternal life, eternal youth, eternal supply, okay? But when they lose it and they learn to work for it, this is when the Taurus learns how to be grateful. And gratitude is an amazing thing to use for manifestation. It really, really helps you. That's why when the Taurus individual learns gratitude, they learn that they were never entitled to these things. They have to deserve it. This is another like awakening out of the slumber and the illusions of the Maya, right? Of the material plane. They wake up from the tricks the material plane plays on them. Okay, so now let's take a look at Taurus from a bit of a different angle. Taurus is the first in the earth signs, right? So you have Taurus, then you have Virgo, then you have Capricorn. So for the Taurian individual to evolve and be initiated, they learn to nurture and take care of other people, or to use their supply to support other people. This is done because they enter the Virgo, the next earth sign. Taurus also comes from Aries and shifts into Gemini. So Taurus learns about the power of their words, the power of their throat center. Words of affirmation work a lot better for Taurus people rather than Gemini people, because Gemini doesn't put that much value into words. They love to play with words. Gemini is a bit different when it comes to language and words, but Taurus, because it represents the throat, the larynx, the neck, that area. Taurus is that moment in time and space when speech became things, or it became creation, when language led to creation. So Taurus, interestingly enough, does relate to sound and frequency, and how that becomes color is the same as how your words become your actions, and how your actions become the tangible physical results. So Taurus really, really, really rules the process of things materializing for the first time. That's important. Taurus is like the first materialization. Then in Virgo you have like a second materialization where you have refinement, and natural selection starts to play a role, so you have something more refined materialize. In Scorpio, that thing mutates, and Capricorn, it reaches its peak. It's like the best out of the best. It's the it dominates the natural hierarchy, because okay, this is the best creation that there is to exist. That's Capricorn, the last earth sign, and that's why Capricorn is also the gate of death and decay on the material plane, not on the spiritual, but you free yourself from the material shell. And Capricorn represents this because it's the pinnacle of manifestation. It's like the highest and best version of something that's ever materialized. But Taurus is the beginning, and that's why it's very idealistic. And Tauruses have these creativity, very spontaneous creativity. They may be amazing fashion designers, makeup creators, artists of any kind, and their art is very fresh, very unpretentious. A lot of the times, the Taurus individual can create beautiful things. They not be of the highest quality like Capricorn. They may not have the highest attention to detail like within Virgo, but Taurus will have most life in its creation. It will feel alive. And that is the genius of the creativity that Taurus sparks within people, within Taurian individuals. It's that their creativity may not be refined or detailed, but it's so raw and spontaneous. It's almost like godly or ancient in that sense. It's like genius in that sense. Because when you refine something too much, when you pay too much attention to the details, you lose a little bit of the spark, and Taurus doesn't lose that spark. So it's very important for my Taurian people out there to appreciate their creativity as it is, at its rawest form, because it's supposed to be genius and celestial and godly as it is in its primal first form. So yeah, that's interesting about Taurus and their creative endeavors, because after all, Taurus and Leo are one of the most creative signs in the zodiac. For the reason being, Venus, the ruler of Taurus, is exalted in the 5th house. Not exalted, but at its joy in the 5th house of Leo. So there you go. Now, another thing about the Taurian archetype. I'm looking through my notes. That's why I have them with me. I make sure I mention everything. So, Taurus does not believe necessarily in the gratification of the future. Tauruses may appear as if they're very stubborn or materialistic or whatever, because Taurus doesn't like to work really hard and put in a lot of effort for a hypothetical future. That's the fixed earth. I want it, and I want it now. And I want it to last forever. But like, if you tell a Taurus, okay, you gotta work for 3 years to achieve this goal, they're not gonna like you and they're not gonna trust you. They do want the fastest and quickest way to achieve the best results. Kind of like Virgo, but Virgo does it from a place of, I want to be efficient and do a lot more things in the meanwhile. Taurus does it from a place of, I don't want to waste my effort on unnecessary things. Taurus really is the harshness of Mother Nature sometimes, where she eliminates whatever is not worth the effort. So different species dying or, going extinct, like natural disasters happening, forests like being set on fire, not by humans, but by weather, etc., so that the forest can be reborn. Mother Nature does not sustain anything, including us human beings, if that thing is not worth sustaining. Taurus is like this. Taurus is the earth. Taurus is like Mother Nature. Tauruses don't like to put in effort into things that will take a long ass time to give results and to secure a hypothetical happiness in a hypothetical future, because Taurus is like, what if I get hit by a bus? I wanna enjoy my ice cream, not in 3 months, but today, because what if I don't live 3 months down the line? So Taurus doesn't like the hypothetical future. They really work within short time frames of, like, they can work hard, they can put a lot of effort into things, but for a month maximum. Then they need to get the salary and it needs to be really satisfying, or then they need to weigh themselves and see the numbers they desire on the scale. They need short, like 2-3 weeks hard effort, a result, a goal is achieved, I can reward myself, then do it again and again. And some Tauruses have even lower tolerance for this, and they can last only a week, sacrificing rewards, and they will need the reward after that. But Taurus likes to indulge in pleasure and to prolong the pleasure as much as possible. That's why if you have Taurus placements, especially in your 6th house, in your 5th house, in your 10th house, your career needs to bring you constant satisfaction, constant pleasure. It's going to be very difficult to put in a lot of work and a lot of effort into something that the hypothetical future holds a reward for. Sorry. Now, Capricorn is different. For example, Capricorn can work a long ass time for the hypothetical future because they are followed by Aquarius, fixed air sign. Aquarius believes in the future. Aquarius believes that whether they live or not, they are part of the future. They're somehow connected to it. Gemini follows Taurus. Gemini, short attention span. Gemini is curious and quick and on their feet all the time. So Taurus is followed by a very impatient air sign. That's why Taurus is, when they develop mentally and when they study, etc., they quickly get bored. They need to be stimulated. You have to look at the sign after the sign you're analyzing. And Gemini comes after Taurus, and that's why Taurus is, will put a lot of effort into something if they know the reward is really big, really sweet, really rewarding, and it's going to come soon. So if you have Taurus placements, you gotta find a system where you can be rewarded often enough and big enough so that you continue long term with your goals and desires. As a Taurus, it's very important. Now, in the child's consciousness, like when a Taurus is growing up, they will be very protective of their toys, of their food, especially. Like if you ask for the last gum in the package, they will be like, "You want me to give you my last piece of gum?" There's no way. Taurus is not gonna do that. They will count the gums. They will. When Tauruses are still children and they start to develop a sense of, okay, I own my body. Like I can say if you're allowed to touch me or not, and I can hit you if you touch me and I don't want you to touch me. When Taurus realizes that, okay, this is my pack of gums, or this is my food, this is my bag of chips. When Taurus, the Taurian child, realizes that they own things, including themselves, it's a very important part of development. And if a Taurian child is constantly forced into affection and like skinship and PDA when they don't want to, even with their parents, if they're forced into a hug and they didn't want that hug, I mean, that can, I guess, apply to any child, but I do think it's especially emphasized for the Taurian child. If they're forced into sharing their body and sharing their toys when they really don't want to, the Taurus can feel like they don't really own themselves. So it's important really to teach them balance and to teach them generosity when they're kids, because you don't want them to grow as very, very selfish individuals. But they have to come to the conclusion that they want to share their toys on their own. You can guide them to this conclusion when they're kids, but you shouldn't tell them you gotta share your toys, otherwise you're not gonna be loved. Because then you're gonna have a Taurus that sacrifices themselves and gives everything away and is super dependent in relationships, and they cannot take care of themselves and their finances. My cat is here. So you gotta find a way to lead the Taurian child to share their belongings or to hug people, etc. But they have to come to this conclusion on their own. You shouldn't force them to do it, because then they will grow up believing that love is conditional and they have to do certain things, be certain things, give away certain things, including parts of themselves, in order to be loved. Because after all, the Taurus rising, for example, you have Scorpio in the 7th house, so that Taurus can give themselves away and die for the sake of their partner. They can be malnourished by their partners because they believe that they have to be the nurturer. So it's very, very important to teach Tauruses that sharing is caring, but they have to do it at their own pace, within their own boundaries, at their own timing, okay? Super important, because it will affect their self-worth later down the line. Also, you really have to showcase appreciation and appreciation and attention and love and respect for the toys and the tools and the possessions of Taurus, because they are an extension of them. And by respecting their possessions, you respect them. Okay, that's also important. Now, I like to call Taurus a cosmic mother. It's kind of like that, but maybe not necessarily. Taurus is interesting because Taurus is the bull, but there is a feminine version of that, right? The cow. So the bull and the cow. Taurus is feminine and masculine at the same time. Why? Because Taurus is where the moon is exalted. The cow is connected to the goddess Hathor, and she is a sky goddess, a solar goddess, a lunar goddess. She is a mother, a daughter, and a sister to Ra and to Horus. Both sky gods, sky deities, solar deities. Horus is a sky deity as it represents the moon and the sun. Hathor represents the moon, the sun, the sky, the stars. So Hathor is also the one who breastfed Horus. She was the cow that produced, a nurturing milk, right? So you have a correlation there. Then you have Venus, of course, Aphrodite, a ruler of Taurus. So you have a lot of feminine energy. But then the bull. The bull is often symbolic of the sun or the enabler of the sun, the sacrifice to the sun. You have the bull show up, especially in a Roman esoteric branch or belief system called Mithraism, where Mithra, or the sun, rides the bull and it kills the bull, and the blood of the bull soaks into the soil of the earth and it fertilizes it. So Taurus is like the sacrifice. That's why, no, don't do that. That's why I say Taurus is the falling of the Garden of Eden, as well as the Garden of Eden itself. It's the feminine, nurturing, abundant aspect, as well as the masculine, kind of more tyrannical or more rough part of nature that says, we gotta cut this off, we gotta kill this. It has the compassion to conceive and to nurture, and at the same time the logic and the masculine Martian-like quality to cut things away. So that's why Taurus is very interesting, because it's the moon and the sun at the same time, and that's why I think within Taurus you have the gestation period of dimensions. That's why I think Taurus is a cosmic mother, or a womb-like moment where the fertilizing of a world happens. So it's the fertilizing of the world, and when the egg or the egg cell, right? The egg is fertilized. It remains in the womb, right? But it's also the material, like the body of the baby that will come out of the womb. Therefore, Taurus is the egg within the mother that waits to be fertilized. But it's also the fertilizer itself in the womb. And it's also the baby. This, to me, when I was diving into like different myths, different religious pantheons, etc., teachings, I was like, Taurus is everything. Taurus is not just feminine. Taurus is feminine, masculine, and the child. Taurus is the Holy Trinity. Like, yeah, it just is. And if you look at the sigil for Taurus, the glyph, you have the soul, the circle, and you have the crescent representing the two horns of the bow. You have the crescent, but that is the crescent of the moon. So you have the soul, which is the circle, the complete wholeness, right? Receiving still, like you have the complete wholeness, but that wholeness still receives. So you can see how a world receives another world in itself to give birth to a third one. And esoterically, this is like, you know, in Kabbalah, etc., the first Sephiroths, the first trinity of Sephiroths, the first, if you will, dimensions created. So that's why Taurus is a cosmic mother, and it's not just related to the material plane. Esoterically, it's related to the creation of dimensions and how one entity fertilizes itself and it gives birth to itself, but in a different frequency, so it becomes layered. And this is a very, I would say, abstract concept, so I get it if it's a bit weird, if it sounds a bit weird, but yeah, Taurus is masculine and feminine at the same time. Then you have in the constellation of Taurus Aldebaran, the warrior chief star, the red eye of the bull. The red eye of the bull, the awakened eye of the bull, right? The third eye, basically. This is why Taurus represents the third eye. This is why Taurus represents clairvoyance and clairvoyance developing, because it's the ability to be the world that will come out of the womb and at the same time be in the womb. Taurus is the ability to be in the spiritual and the material dimension at the same time and see beyond the illusion of boundaries between these dimensions. That's why it is the third eye. It bridges these different levels of materiality and spiritual and the spiritual plane. Come here. Come on. Haydi. He wants to come here. So Taurus is a lot more spiritual than people expect and that people give it credit for. So yeah, that's that. Here we go. Let me take a look at my notes if I'm missing anything. So, unawakened Taurus creates from a place of psychic inspiration. In the creative process, only Taurus can infuse, the material with so much life, or the material plane with so much life. Taurus must turn their desires into goals or aspirations that they will willfully go after. Taurus has to desire to be fertilized and to give birth to itself. Taurus represents the opening of the third eye as it relates to the awakening of the Buddha. Taurus is, it has the ability to look beyond the Maya, beyond the illusion of the flesh. As time passes by, Taurus willingly and willfully pursue their desires, and once they achieve them, at some point, the Taurian individual will start to find no deeper meaning in the material plane, and their spiritual evolution will lead them to detaching and becoming disinterested in the previous desires of the material plane. Taurus will suddenly start to desire spiritual enlightenment. That is maybe the highest, most evolved version here in our modern day society of a Taurian individual, when Taurus doesn't want the big house, the comfortable clothes, etc. Taurus wants to sit under a tree and be enlightened. That desire is the alchemical byproduct of the entire alchemical process Taurus goes through, and it's the final stage for the Taurus archetype of initiation. Also, by desiring enlightenment, Taurus will become a great nurturer and a great teacher for others. So the less awakened Taurus will nurture people through material objects. They want to give, they want to care for people, they want to support them financially, etc., to cook them food, etc., all of these things. But when the Taurus really wakes up and starts to desire enlightenment, they will desire only to be a teacher, a guide, a help, to be a step on the ladder for other people to climb on and go higher. This is what they will desire. This is how Taurus will desire to serve humanity. Now, let me see. Yeah, so I did mention how Taurus is like a gate between the material and the spiritual plane. You can see this also within the opposition with Scorpio, because how I like to look at the fixed signs, the fixed cross. So Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio. Aquarius is the higher self, in the higher dimension, on the spiritual plane, connected like to the global consciousness, etc. It goes through Pisces, it goes through Aries, and that impulse to, you know, come back to Earth or incarnate, have a physical experience. It incarnates through Taurus. So Taurus is the moment when spirit from the spiritual passes through the womb, through some sort of a gate, and comes either into the star system or incarnates on the planet. So however you want to look at it, whether Taurus brings the soul into the star system or into the human body, Taurus is still the gate to the material plane. So Taurus is the gate where the spirit comes through and it goes into the material plane. Okay? So in Leo, that incarnated soul becomes an individual. In Leo, it gains individuality, ego, etc. In Scorpio, once again, you have the same gate, but it's reversed. You have the gate where from the material you enter the spiritual, because in Scorpio the ego has to die. But it's interesting because Scorpio doesn't take you directly out of the physical plane. What do I mean? It's really Capricorn that does that. Scorpio only allows you to have a death and rebirth circumstances. So in Scorpio the ego dies, but you are reborn as your higher self and the higher mind, and then you go into Sagittarius to develop your philosophy. Then Capricorn, you reach the pinnacle and you decide to strip away the physical body. And in Aquarius, you are the higher self connected to the collective human consciousness. But Taurus is a gate. So Scorpio is the life and death while you're still in the body. You die and you come back. Scorpio is kind of like the resurrection of Christ, if you will, or the ability of the yogi to die whenever they want to, or to, you know, come back a completely different individual. Scorpio is having a contact with the spiritual plane while still in a physical body, but your ego has died. While Taurus, to me, is coming from the spiritual plane into the physical and still being connected to both at the same time. Does it make sense? Scorpio never really leaves the material plane. It builds a bridge. But Taurus has come from the spiritual plane, so it's been in both places at different states of being. Like through the Taurus gate, the soul has been in both places, in the spiritual and the physical. But in Scorpio, you're always in the physical, you're always in a physical body. You just have access now to altered states of consciousness. And I feel like it is a bit different. And I feel like that's why Taurus is a cosmic mother, a cosmic womb, similar to Cancer, but not like Cancer. And I'm going to talk about it when I go to Cancer. But yeah, that's why Taurus is when the third eye opens. That's why Taurus is actually very, very linked to angels and spirituality, and they have such a gentle, soft awakening, because it's kind of like the child that has just arrived, and they still have fresh memory from their spiritual experiences as a soul. That's Taurus. And that's why Tauruses have a very pure and innocent relationship with spirituality, even when they deal with their shadow. While for Scorpio is a bit different. Scorpio really descends and climbs up again, and that's the difference. That is the major reason why Taurus sees this plane as heaven and Scorpio doesn't. So yeah, but ultimately the fixed signs are guardians. That's why they are represented by the cherub in angelology. That's why they are represented in the Lamassu guardians from ancient Mesopotamia. That's why they're represented by the Sphinx. They're guardians, gatekeepers, if you will. And with all the fixed signs, you have some sort of like a portal of transition. And it's funny because they're fixed signs, but they're fixed because these transitory points will always exist. And that's super, like, an interesting paradox. So, yeah, Taurus, as its most evolved version, will desire enlightenment. That's it. And their third eye, when it opens, it will be very, very colorful. Tauruses are the types of mystics that when they awaken, their clairvoyance is out of this world. It's not like Pisces, it's not like Scorpio, it's not like Cancer, none of the water signs. It's not like Aquarius, the New Age archetype, right? Taurus maybe has the clearest, craziest clairvoyant experiences. And that's because they hold so much light and they're still connected to their light. They are the divine child. They still carry the divine child codes, if you will, which are found within the archetype of Aries, but now they are the divine child with imagination. They're the divine child with the property of creativity, of autonomous creativity. So Taurus has the potential for being the most powerful psychics out there. And maybe a lot of Scorpio people or Pisces people will not like to hear this, because I know we water signs like to think of ourselves as the most intuitive, most psychic, most spiritual, but we're not. The fire and the earth signs are crazily psychic once they awaken, because they have this connection to very visceral psychic experiences. Okay, they have the ability to have very visceral psychic experiences. So don't underestimate the spirituality of Tauruses. And yeah, there is definitely much more to talk about, and you could dive a lot deeper into the mythology and the codes, but it would be too long of a video and I have a lot more notes to write down. So I will definitely be creating like a mini ebook or something with the archetypes and everything that they encompass later this year. So yeah, these videos are kind of like introductions, and I hope you enjoy them, and I hope it resonates. I hope it gives you more clarity and a deeper understanding of this archetype. I just want my Taurians to not be underestimated. They are very, very, very powerful soul warriors, okay? And I will talk to all of you very soon. I'm updating a pick a card, so I don't know if this video is updated before or after the pick a card, but please enjoy them both, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.